Lesson 3-3, solve inequalities using multiplication or division. So in this lesson, we're just going to review how you were going to solve inequality just using the properties of multiplication or division. So just like with equations of equality, you would multiply or divide by the same number on each side. Here you're going to do the same thing. The only difference is instead of an equal sign, you have an inequality. Now there are some other rules we have to take care of, and let's look at some of those rules. So for the multiplication property of inequality, it says if a, b, and c are real numbers and c is positive and a is less than b, then a times c is still going to be less than b times c. But if a, b, and c are real numbers and c is negative and a is less than b, then a times c is going to be greater than b times c. So we have to flip the symbol when we multiply by a negative number. And the reason why we're going to do that is, so if I were to take an example of if a was 4, b was 7, and actually let's see, yeah, b is 7 and c is, let's say c is 2. Right now a is less than b, so 4 is less than 7. But if I were to do, if c was a negative 2, then it would be 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8. And 7 times negative 2 would give us negative 14. Well, negative 14 is further to the left of 0 than negative 8. So negative 8 is actually greater than negative 14. So just know when we multiply by a negative number, we have to flip the symbol. And that's going to be the same case for a division property of inequality. So if a, b, and c are real numbers and c is positive, then a is going to be less than b. Then if I do a divided by c, it's still going to be less than b divided by c. But if a, b, and c are real numbers and c is negative, and a is still less than b, well then a divided by c is going to be greater than b divided by c. So let's take a look at some examples. Keeping in mind, when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we always flip the symbol. So example 1, we need to solve and graph each inequality. So here, the opposite of multiplying by 52 is divide by 52. So I'm going to do that on both sides. And I'm going to be left with b is going to be greater than or equal to, and this is going to give me a decimal. And so with the decimal, here we're just going to round it to the nearest integer. But just to show that it's a decimal answer, we have 235, and we're going to divide that by 52. We have 4.519. Let's just round that to 5. So we know that it has to be, actually because it has the equal to parts, let's, we're going to have to keep it as a reduced fraction. And on a calculator for a reduced fraction, just hit math, option number 1, and hit enter. So the reduced fraction would be 235 over 52. So on a number line, I'm just going to plot that number here. So 235 over 52. And since it can equal that, it's going to be a filled-in circle. And it's got to be greater than goes to the right. So that's what our graph would look like for that particular problem. Next, I have the opposite of multiplying by a negative 7.30. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 7.30. And now I'm left with n. And because I'm dividing by a negative, I have to flip the symbol. So now it's going to be less than or equal to. And then we're going to grab our calculator. And we have 365. And we're going to divide that by a negative 7.3. And that gives us a negative 50. So for this one, we would have n is less than negative 50. And then on a number line, put negative 50 here. Since it cannot equal it, we have an open circle this time. It's got to be less than. Less than is always to the left. So it's going to the left on this one. Next one, we have 4k is less than 24. The opposite of multiplying by 4 is divide by 4. So I do that on both sides. And I'm left with k is still less than 6. I don't flip it because there's no negative involved. Or I'm not dividing by a negative. So I put on 6 here. Because it cannot equal 6, I have an open circle. Less than always goes to the left. Next one, I combine like terms. So negative 12x plus 4x is a negative 8x. And this is supposed to be less than negative 4. To get x by itself, I'm going to divide everything by negative 8. Do that on both sides, and we're left with x. And because we divided by a negative number, I flip the symbol so x is greater than 1/2. And then on a number line, we have 1/2 here. It cannot equal it, so it's an open circle. It has to be greater than, going to the right. Now, one way to check your answer is just give me a number bigger than half. A number bigger than half would be 1. If I put 1 back in for x here, negative 12 times 1 is negative 12. 4 times 1 is 4. It still gives you negative 8. Negative 8 is still less than negative 4. So I know that my answer would be correct. Next, solve and graph this inequality. Here we need to combine the z's on the right-hand side. So negative z, 8z minus 2z is negative 10z. And we know that negative 20 is going to be less than negative 10z. To get z by itself, I'm going to divide by negative 10. And to get z, and I'm going to write z first. So z, and if I read it backwards, z is greater than, but because I'm dividing by a negative, z is actually going to be less than 2. Now it looks like I didn't flip the symbol, but remember I wrote this backwards. I put the variable first. So if I read it backwards, up here it's z is greater than, now it's z is less than 2. And then to graph this one, I would have 2 here, cannot equal it, it's open circle to the left because it has to be less than. Now, if you prefer, when you have this one, if you prefer having the variables on the left, just rewrite that. You could have rewritten it as negative 2z minus 8z is greater than negative 20. And if you've written it like that way and then solve for z, there you can see the sign is actually flipped. Next, solve and graph these inequalities. So the opposite of dividing by 12 is multiplying by 12. So I do that on both sides. I now have x is greater than or equal to 15 times 12. Let's do that quickly on our calculator. So 15 times 12 gives us 180. So we have a number line, be 180. Filled in circle because it can equal it. Greater than means it goes to the right. Next, I want to combine like terms here. So negative 1y minus 1/5 y. This is really saying negative 5/5 y because negative 5 divided by negative 5, or 5 divided by 5 is 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So negative 5/5 minus 1/5 is negative 6/5 y is less than 30. Now the opposite of multiplying by negative 6/5 is multiplying by the reciprocal, which will give us a negative 5/6. So that's going to give us a y. And whatever I do on one side, I do on the other side. But because I'm multiplying by a negative number, I have to flip the symbol, so now it's greater than. And I'm going to simplify a little bit here, divide a 6 here, divide by 6 here. 5 times negative 5 is going to give us a negative 25. So now we can graph this. We have a point at negative 25. It's open circle because it cannot equal. Greater than means it goes to the right. Next, here I'm looking at, we're at the variable side here, and I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to rewrite this so I have x over negative 11. So all I did was just put the negative on the bottom with a number. That'll save a step later on. And this has to be less than or equal to a negative 1. And it looks like I flipped the symbol, but I actually kept it the same because if I read it backwards from the original problem, it's really what I have written here. Now the opposite of dividing by negative 11 is multiplied by negative 11. Do that on both sides. Now left with x, and because I'm multiplying by a negative, I have to flip the symbol so it's greater than or equal to, negative 1 times negative 11 is 11. And then on a number line, 11 here, filled in circle because it can equal 11. Greater than means it goes to the right. Next, here I want to do the same thing. I'm just rewriting this. This would be r divided by negative 5 is greater than 3/5. I want to multiply both sides by negative 5. 5's divide out, you're left with r. Because I'm multiplying by a negative, I flip the symbol, so it's less than. 5 divided by here gives you negative 1 times 3, which is negative 3. And then the graphis point at negative 3. Have a open circle at negative 3 going to the left. And if I want to check my answer, if I just put a number less than negative 3, let's say I put let's just say if I did negative 4. If I put negative 4 in for r, negative 4 divided by negative 5 is 4/5. 4/5 is still bigger than 3/5. And our last problem, Monica's new car averages 23 miles per gallon of gasoline. What is the greatest number of gallons of gasoline she will need if she travels no more than 500 miles? So a couple of key phrases. No more than means it has to be less than or equal to. So Monica's new car averages 23 miles per gallon. What is the greatest number of gallons of gas she will need if she travels no more? So 23 miles per gallon. We don't know how many gallons, so I'm going to put 23G. No more than, so less than or equal to 500 miles. So that's our inequality. Now to get G by itself, I'm just going to divide by 23 on both sides. And we're going to use our calculator here. So we got 500 divided by 23. And that gives us 21.7391343. So for this one, if we're just going to round it to the nearest whole gallon, that would be about 22 gallons. So we would say it would have to be less than 22 gallons. Now, did I change the sign here? Yes, because if I put the equal to, that means we're saying that it can equal 22 gallons. And because we have a long decimal on it, that really wouldn't make much sense for it. So we're going to say it has to be less than about 22 gallons. So that is our lesson on solving inequalities using multiplication or division.